Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Modern Day Spiritualist. And today I have the great honor of speaking with my spiritual god sister, Madam Esther. Hey, girl.
Hey, hello, hello, hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank
Um,
you.
just give us a little intro and tell us a little background for the people who don't know you yet.
Okay, hello everyone. I am Madam Esther. I am a spiritualist as well as a registered nurse, and I am the daughter of the great, iconic Chief Dr. Keone. So
Yeah.
being in this spiritual life is it's been my life forever and a day.
So, you mentioned you were a nurse, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about spirituality in the medical field. Tell me, have you seen any spiritual things going on? I know you have. So, just tell us like your favorite one. Like, what is that like being, a spiritualist in the medical field?
Oh, okay. It's interesting. It's interesting. So, like I said, and I'm sorry, my lighting is just getting all funky on me. So I'm sorry as I'm trying to adjust this. Um, so it's interesting, right? You have these two opposing thought processes, right? You have that of a spiritualist, and
Mhm,
then you also have that of like the modern day um, medical world, healthcare.
mhm.
So things that I've seen, for me, it's interesting because there's this pull to always be true to me. The spiritualist, you see things, you hear things, you sense things. You're very, very intuitive. Your senses are always inundated.
Mhm.
It's interesting because I'm constantly having to keep that part of me in check while still being able to be an effective nurse, follow the rules, not be intrusive, not
Mhm.
invade other people's space,
Yeah.
so to speak. So, when I encounter people, when I encounter patients and their families, right off the back, you get a sense of, oh God, that's what they going through. Like that's what they dealing with, So it's really, really a balancing act to be able to be true to myself, still be able to care for someone spiritually from a spiritual place, being empathetic, being sympathetic, being compassionate, and be able to meet those needs and help them to find a balance within their own life and within whatever is going on with them, whatever disease process they're dealing with, but also, still staying very true to the core of nursing.
Right.
It's a very interesting balancing act.
It sounds like it, and I can see how that would be, just based off my encounters of interacting with, people in the medical
Hmm.
field. I'm sure that there is constant spiritual activity always happening, always, right? So let's talk
Always.
about spiritual hygiene. Like, what's your spiritual hygiene like working in a place where you're surrounded by sickness and death and this and that?
Oh, okay. So I've got routines. I think it's important for anyone for really everybody. Everybody needs a spiritual routine, spiritual hygiene routine. That should be standard. That should be something that we're teaching our kids
Absolutely.
because we're in this world, right? So we're constantly interacting and encountering with things that we don't necessarily want to be attached to us. So I constantly have a daily routine of cleaning. I clean myself before I spiritually clean myself before I go to work. Throughout the day, I have things with me that I'm able to do little birdie bath cleanses, if you will,
Mhm.
little mini cleanses. If I'm starting to feel kind of bogged down at work, or I'm dealing with a difficult patient, their difficult family, or just they have a lot of things spiritually going on. And so on top of their medical issues, they got all this spiritual gunk
Mm-hmm.
just attached to them and swarming around. So I have routines where I cleanse myself, throughout the day. I've got spiritual sprays, cleaning sprays that I use. I'm known for carrying like salt scrubs. We touch with our hands, right? Our hands are
Right.
a gateway. Our hands are a portal. So we're constantly touching things throughout the day with a very, very, very huge portal on our body, our hands. So I've got spiritual salts that I use that I'll just, slip away. Just do a quick spiritual like salt scrub. When I get off work, first thing I do, is I come in and I wash the fleas away. And my family knows I say that I got to wash the fleas off
That's funny.
because you pick up things.
Yeah.
So I do a very, very deep cleanse when I come in. I do my shower, my natural shower, of course, and then I follow it with a series of cleansings. If I'm feeling really, really um, heavy from a day, then I'll do a more, in-depth cleaning, which is a bath, an incense where I basically am fumigating myself,
Hmm.
fumigating my surroundings, fumigating where I lay my head to make sure that I'm not carrying any of that stuff. So for me, I'm constantly, constantly cleaning, and it helps that it all smells good. So throughout the
Right.
day, smelling really pretty, smelling really good. Yeah,
Do
but
you
I
think?
use.
Go
Go ahead.
ahead. You use what?
I use a lot of, I make my own stuff, but I also use a lot of things that I get from Dr. Keone, from my father, for that heavy, heavy, you know, knock a spirit out kind of cleansing.
Yes, which I just used one of his incense and it was great. I can literally feel the difference, in the house. Yeah, I
Yeah,
loved it.
it's good.
Shout out to Dr. Daddy Keone. Yay.
Shout out to Dr. Daddy Keone.
Do you think that spiritualists or practitioners are strategically placed in the medical field?
um I think that there is something behind that. Like for me, I felt the calling to be a nurse when I was in kindergarten. I was just a kid. I didn't even know what a nurse was, but I
Mhm.
felt the pull to be a nurse. And so I think that we are all, being spiritualists, we're strategically placed in this world. We come on a mission. And I think that the things that we gravitate towards as far as like a secular career, yeah, I think that there's some strategic behind it. I think that our Ori knows what's best for us. Our Ori
Mhm.
knows, what's best for our good destiny. And so we're led into those different fields. I encounter other spiritualists in the medical field, although they don't identify themselves. When you've been in this life long enough, you're able to recognize, right? Spirit
Right.
recognizes spirit. Spirit knows
100%.
spirit.
Yeah.
So I can see where different people are pulled into different areas, specialties within the medical community, and they're able to really not just shine, but do a lot of good because we bring a different element to the table. We don't just see things from a textbook standpoint, or a paper with lab results and diagnostic standpoint. We just see things on a whole different holistic level.
So I would think that that is probably one of the greatest impacts that being a spiritualist can have on that industry. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We're not just physical beings, right? We're spiritual. There's a spiritual component to us, and that spiritual component needs to be tended to. We need to be able to recognize what's going on, and again, without being intrusive, there are things that I will do to try to help ease the suffering of a patient spiritually, without again being intrusive and invading their space, and still being able to remain respectful of whatever their beliefs may be.
Yeah, I think that you can actually tell too when you're the patient. You can
Hmm.
tell when somebody has a spiritual element to them, whatever it is, whether it's a particular path or a specific religion. It feels like they're more compassionate, they're more empathetic. They can almost sense, exactly what you need,
Yep.
but you can't articulate it. So I
Yep.
think that that's wonderful to have certain people like you in that field because you're already going through so much. And then because I've encountered some real nasty individuals in that field, and it's like, I don't think that's what you're supposed to be doing, sweetheart. Like, go back to the drawing board, right? Like, you
it
missed the mark.
I completely agree. There's I think being a spiritualist in the medical field it's a gift. It's definitely a gifting. It's definitely a calling. And I often say things like when people can no longer respect and see another person's humanity on a
Mhm.
very basic level, to be able to try to provide them and meet their needs, whatever their needs are, they need to get out of this field.
Yeah,
If you can't recognize and respect basic humanity, and spiritual component is a part of that,
right.
then yeah, this is not a field that you need to be in. Absolutely. It's not for the weak, and it's not for the faint at heart.
I can see that. Let's go to the dark side for a little bit.
Ooh.
So, a long time ago, I had to be about 13 or something like that. My mom had this book called Pigs in the Parlor. Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it, but I've never read it.
Okay, so the story is about this lady who she gets into a different side, the not so loving light side of spirituality, I'll say that. And she no longer wanted to be a part of it. She was actually a part of this cult, and they were into some very lower level energy type things. And the main head, which she was, and this was a true story, she
Hmm.
was they were doctors and nurses, and they would do like these rituals on the patients. They would like that was their place, their hub for whatever they needed to do like in life. Like I'm
Hmm.
talking about the biggest grandest rituals you could think of. These people were like in the right place for that. They recruited there, like all of that. And so this lady, she got caught up in that with them. And then later on at the end of the story, she talks about how she got delivered from that. And I believe she went over to Christianity, something like that, because
Hmm.
the whole point of the story was talking about how Jesus came and set the captives free or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I want to ask you, do you feel like a lot of that happens a lot? Like either based off of your experiences or just things that you've seen or heard. What do you think about that?
I can't say that I've seen any recruitment, so to speak, going on. But I do think that I have encountered people that misuse their
Mhm.
gifts, right? Very, very intrusive. And by what I say misuse, something as simple as just imposing their will upon another person,
Mhm.
misusing their gifts. Though the intentions are, from what I've seen, the intentions have been, to heal, to help, to save, etc. It's still a misuse of their gifts because there was no consent on the other person's part. The patient's part, or the family, the other family member's part. So to me, that is an abusing of a gift. Anytime we do anything, just like even with sexual relationships, right? If you're going to have a sexual relationship with another person, there needs to be consent.
Correct.
Both parties need to consent to giving and receiving of energy, giving and receiving, partaking in that activity. So it's the same thing. I view the same thing with assisting someone or helping someone or showing somebody a different path. There needs to be consent, and if there's not consent, it's an abuse of power.
Yeah, like these people were taking advantage of patients who were like in comas and stuff like that, and using them to do their rituals. It was crazy. And just to know like it was a true story was like, oh my God.
That's crazy. Now, I've seen things like that outside of healthcare
Uh-huh.
where people do, similar things, but thankfully I have not encountered anything in healthcare. Knowing, if I did, knowing me and my big mouth, I wouldn't be able to be quiet about that. Mm.
How open do you think the medical field is to different spiritual beliefs? I know sometimes in some hospitals they have like a chaplain and they have like a place where you can go to pray or whatever. I was watching what is the name of the Amsterdam,
Yeah.
and do you watch that?
I have not sat down to watch it yet, but I'm familiar with it.
So it's a really, really good show. Um, and one of the episodes, the lady, she had whatever she had going on with her, and she was a practicing what did she practice? Voodoo. And so they were like, no, we need to do our ritual before y'all think y'all about to do anything. Like this is what's going to help. And they had to do it inside of the room, right? But the doctor was like, "Nah, like y'all not doing none of that because we about to do the surgery and whatever." Like he had his own beliefs. But anyway, something ended up happening where they did actually go ahead with the ritual. And of course it worked because the law come through. Like we already know that, right?
Hey.
Like they don't play no games. And so the guy, he not that he became, like that he converted to voodoo, but he saw like the power in allowing other people to express whatever their
Mhm.
tradition is. I believe that that character probably was like trying to look up a Hugon or a Mambo afterwards, but that's just me. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, so I believe that everybody, first of all, has a right to express whatever their spiritual beliefs are. I'm very, very, very open to allowing people to be true to who they are. I myself, as you know, I walk multiple spiritual paths,
Mhm.
and so again, I'm open to that. I would actually welcome that. And if I did encounter someone who wanted to do, especially, okay, if we're talking about like the ATRs, are very, very special and sacred religions, which are so beautiful. For me,
Mhm.
that would be a joy to see someone feel that comfortable, um, and confident in their spiritual walk and their spiritual system to openly practice something like that in an environment such as a healthcare field. We're in this Western world, so our healthcare field, it just is what it is. It's very European American dominated, right? It's very white dominated. So I would love to see patients feel comfortable enough to express their true spiritual beliefs. Of course, you get the Christians, the Catholics who want to do their rosaries, say their prayer, and I'm all for that. I have very strong roots in Christianity, so I would welcome that again. And if I encountered someone who was opposing that, then the natural advocate in me would, of course, have to stand up and say, whoa, we don't have the right to impede on another person's freedom of religion. And that's really what it boils down to. People have the right to practice their religion. This country was founded primarily on the premise of freedom of religion. So that's something that I think we need to carry on and make sure that we are respecting in the healthcare field. A lot of spiritual practices are not widely accepted. A lot of things are taboo. But again, I would welcome that. You're like, come on, who you who you calling? Okay, who you calling? Let's get it. Let's get it. What do you need? That would be my response. What do you need to be able to be true and carry out your spiritual belief in this situation? Because at the
I
end of the day, it's about healing. It's about
exactly.
helping. Hmm.
Exactly. I love to know that we have advocates like you in that system where normally it wouldn't be so open and, widely accepted in that way. Do you have a story where being spiritual has paid off for you in the nursing field?
Oh yeah. So again, every we're and when when I do this, I know that you understand what I'm doing. This around us is very active. It's
Mhm.
constantly active, right? The spiritual world is very, very active. So I'm constantly hearing things, sensing things, don't go there, do this instead. Nope, do this. So because I am very true to myself, and I listen to what others might call that inner voice,
Yeah.
you know, listening to that inner voice for me is listening to my ancestors, listening to my multiple endless spiritual guides that say do this, don't do that. And so that always leads to being able to make the right call, or catch something before anybody else sees it. Hey doc, this don't look right. Hey doc,
Mhm.
this something's not right here. No, let's do this instead. Maybe we should try this instead. And so when I'm open and receptive to hearing that voice, to hearing those, those voices, so to speak, it
Yeah.
always ends at a favorable outcome, because my spirit guides catch things before other people do. And it always leads to saving a life. It always leads to helping someone recover a lot faster than they normally would. Sometimes people are sick with things we're not sure what's going on with them. We
Mhm.
can give our best educated guess, our best scientific guess based on things that we've encountered before, and research, peer reviewed research and data that's out there. But sometimes you do run into things where everybody is puzzled and don't know which way to go next. So being receptive to listening to the voice of my ancestors, my spirit guides, my multiple um, you know, my multiple guides,
Right.
being receptive to that definitely always ends in a favorable outcome.
Do you feel like you have maybe one or two guys, in particular that really, when it's time to go to work, they're like, "Yep, hello, we're here."
But yeah,
You ever Yeah.
absolutely. Um, Sometimes they get a little overzealous. Overzealous, and sometimes they're gonna be like, okay, guys, let's rein it back in just a little bit. I still need to be able to be very present and aware of what's going on. But yeah, I do have some ancestors that walk very, very closely with me, who were caregivers, and very, very, very good caregivers in their own right and their time. And yeah, I've got some other spirit guides that are very compassionate, very caring, and have strong virtues of healing that walk very closely with me.
I love that. I love that. So, Madam Esther, what advice, would you give a person looking to get into the medical field that's a spiritualist?
Be true to yourself first and foremost. And before anything, make sure that you have a very strong and proficient cleansing, spiritual cleansing, routine, spiritual hygiene, because we are a lot more open than the average person. So we're inundated with a whole lot of things. So being able to protect yourself spiritually, so that you do not carry back home with you, or carry for years with you, things that never belonged to you in the beginning,
Mhm.
issues, ailments, spiritual issues that never belonged to you. So having a strong spiritual hygiene is a must. And I would say, being able to, again, be true to yourself, um, have a set of elders that you are able to speak to confide in, when something is not right or you don't feel right. You have a strong group of elders that you're able to go to, so that others are able to pour back into you and lift you back up so you can be effective. But I
That's
first
good.
first and foremost, I would definitely say, be true to yourself, know what you're getting into. um, this spiritual walk is not for the weak, and it's not for the faint at heart to begin with. and then you add on a component of caring for other people, stepping into their world to help try to do something to pull them out of whatever they're in. It's heavy. It's very heavy. It gets very, very dark. Have a strong um, routine of meditation, and being able to stay grounded above all else. Stay grounded. It is way too easy for people to become ungrounded and then have to fight and claw their way back. And when you get to that point, you're not effective. You're not able to be an effective advocate for your patients, for their families. You're not able to be an effective healer. So be true to yourself, stay grounded, stay on top of your spiritual hygiene, and be able to have and talk to your elders, because they will lead and guide you and help you to be successful.
Beautiful, beautiful. Is that the same advice you would give to somebody, a spiritualist who's already in the medical field, or is it a little bit
Absolutely.
different? Okay.
No, absolutely. And um, I don't expect everyone to just, be waving their flag and showing everybody, hey, this is me, I'm initiating this, I'm initiating that, I do this, I read tarot cards, I throw the bones, the shamalungos, whatever. I don't expect everyone to be like that open with it, because this is, spirituality is it's our own private walk, right?
Right.
But I would definitely encourage people to be true to their selves, and don't be afraid of just being yourself. Be who you are. Never be afraid. Never be ashamed.
Yeah, regardless of what path you're on, what career you're in, that's
Yep,
applicable to everyone, all walks of life.
absolutely.
So, Madam Esther, because you are a part of the ATR community, that really all we're doing is learning and embracing ancient techniques, ancient sciences, ancient ways of being. But what does it mean to be a modern day spiritualist to you?
So, being a modern day spiritualist, for me, it is being, again, true to who you are, being able to navigate through this world and this time and space effectively, while still being anchored to our spiritual roots, to our ancestral roots. As you mentioned, with the ATRs, it's seeped in ancestor veneration. It's seeped in staying connected and staying anchored to our ancestral roots. So being true to me,
Mhm.
being able to feel free to practice whatever spiritual modalities I need to, stay anchored to my ancestral roots. That's all a part of being a modern day spiritualist for me. Things have changed, right? Times have changed. People look different. We do things differently. We connect with people differently. But just being true to me, I am Madam Esther. My ancestors walk very, very strongly with me. My spirit guides walk strongly with me. And so being anchored to them still venerates them. It still gives them life. It still gives them a voice. They're still able to impact change. So I kind of consider myself the bridge between my ancestors and this world, and being able to still impact change and bring about a lot of dreams that were deferred from our ancestors, being able to realize those and manifest those in today's time.
I love that